do want to acknowledge a couple of folk whom I've met recently. One is Devin. He and his brother have a YouTube channel called Trucking in Jays. They're based out of the Columbia, South Carolina metropolitan area, and they're also involved in delivery and transport. And then a person whom I met like minutes later, we got to talking, and then he came back and chatted with me again. He's like, "I've seen you before. You got a YouTube channel." And I'm like, "Yeah, I do. Yeah, I've checked out your stuff." And so we talked briefly. Mike, he's in delivery and transport as well. So it's always encouraging when I run into people, either people whom I recognize. In fact, Devin is the first person whom I've actually approached and said, "Hey, you've got a YouTube channel, and I've checked out your content from time to time." Yeah, it's the first to me, but usually it's been other people who've recognized me, but it's still encouraging to interact with other people. Now, I am traveling westbound on I-20. I am probably about 20 minutes from crossing the state line, South Carolina state line, entering into Georgia, and I'll be on I-20 for the next several hours as my highest paying delivery and transport opportunity is going to earn me $2,750. This opportunity originated out of Charleston earlier today around mid-morning, and I am delivering some sensitive medical equipment to a doctor's office, and the total miles on that trip is 1,079 miles. And again, I am to be paid $2,750. So this tops by far any delivery and transport opportunity that I've ever attempted and was paid. I've mentioned many times about my very first brokered opportunity, which happened to go from Charlotte to San Antonio. That one earned me just over $1,400. Then earlier this year, I had a stacked opportunity, which I started with a last mile gig delivery opportunity, but then I also it was actually stacked with a brokered opportunity. So what was happening is that I was going to go from the Columbia, South Carolina metropolitan area to Greenville, South Carolina metropolitan area, drop off that order, and then pick up in Greer, South Carolina, and go to Atlanta. But what happened was, after I dropped off in Greenville for that gig app, the broker contacted me and said there's been a change of plans, and could I go to Miami with that load? And so we agreed on additional monies, and so it turned out that I went from Columbia to Miami and earned $1,500. So that is the largest opportunity that I've done. But this tops it. This is almost doubles what I'd done before. So now the initial offer was like $2,100, but I put in for $2,750, and I guess my name was on it. And so this kind of leads into another thing that I want to cover real quickly. Now, over the past several weeks, I have put in a plug about countdown to six figures, and so I'm closing out the countdown to six figures by sharing that yesterday I topped six figures on a delivery opportunity that paid me $200. It was a 66-mile trip, and again I earned $200 on it, and so for the second consecutive year I have now earned six figures, earned six figures, gross six figures, produced in revenue six figures. And quite frankly, when I'm sharing about the six figures, and for that matter, this particular opportunity, this is no victory lap. I am in no mindset of doing a victory lap, as some would do, and really make a big deal out of it. Reason being is that I'd shared in a few segments during the summer. In fact, I talked about throughout the year how I felt that the year had been difficult. The market conditions had changed rather significantly and dramatically, and it's put pressure on a lot of us. Um, and the pressure that I felt was that I saw a significant drop in income from levels that I'd been used to um, during the months of August and September. I saw a drop of just about 30%, dropping from um, what had been pretty much the uh, benchmark of 10 grand a month to just barely topping seven. Now, some would say, geezer, man, come on, seven, I'd take that any day. And you know what? You have every reason to think that, hey, seven is a pretty good month. Hey, just 5 years ago, seven would have been a milestone month for me. Now, it also would have been a milestone month because of the space that I was in, doing primarily gig food delivery work and maybe a few last mile gig delivery opportunities. But when you add delivery and transport, now you're dealing with a different level of earnings. And so and I'd gotten used to reaching the $10,000 number. Seven, the way it happened so abruptly, it wasn't gradual, it was abruptly 30% loss. And then you're not seeing things, you're seeing things. It got to a point too that I began wondering whether I had really made the right decision by getting involved with delivery and transport, having made the investment with a Sprinter/cargo van. It just wasn't looking good. It really wasn't. And those sleepless nights became taxing. And it got to a point where I was thinking that, hey, maybe I need to put on a different set of clothes and start beating the pavement, and start bolstering again the insurance operations. By the way, I've shown where I have an office. I rent office space. Well, the rental of office space was for the insurance agency, and the problem though with insurance is that the money that you earn doesn't come as fast, or at more. The money that you earn does not occur at the same intervals when you're involved with the gig apps, and for that matter, brokered / expediting opportunities, or for that matter, cash game opportunities. When it comes to insurance, I would have to deal with the time element sacrifice, in that, let's say if I were able to write some business right out the gate, I wouldn't see that money until the following month at the earliest, and in some cases maybe the month after that. So it would have been some work. It really would have been some work, and that's just putting it lightly when I describe some work. A lot of work on my part, in the sense that I'd be having to knock on a lot of doors, deal with a lot of rejections, dealing with a lot of people who were uncertain or not sure if they really want to go ahead with something like insurance. I could tell you, just in my over 20 years experience. Yeah, so in my 20 years plus as an insurance agent, as a licensed insurance agent, yes, while people may complain about insurance premiums, they may complain about the insurance coverages, they may complain about the customer service. In my 20 plus years, I have never seen a person, I have never experienced a person ever refuse or reject an insurance claim check. Never. I don't care if it's for $20. If their name is on that check, they accept it and they go and cash it. That's rather expeditiously. So now, as it turned out, August and September were bad months, but then October was even worse. But somehow, as bad as October was, in which I earned $5,678, I was able to somehow get through the month. I mean, that was probably the nadir, the lowest. And so, about that time too, there were some things that I had been wanting to do, had been working towards. I was able to kind of start putting those things in motion, and then it took an up, it took anywhere, it took an upwards of a month before things started to kind of kick in, with some of the added investment that I've made into my business enterprise. And when those things started kicking in, I've begun to see an upward swing again in the opportunities and the earnings. And that has been evident by some of the opportunities that I've not really shared here on the channel, here on the YouTube channel, but I've done okay. I've done okay to the extent that I have a chance. I have a chance again. I have a chance to be viable. The important things that I think about in this upward swing again, or at least in this recovery, is that I still have to stick to a certain process. Part of the process is the constant assessment and reassessment of business operations. Another thing is the investment in myself in terms of time and money, literally. The investment of time, I've kind of shared in recent Get Geezer segments and in the live stream about how you have to kind of become a student of the game. You have to be apprised of some of the trends of what's going on out there. You get caught up into your everyday grind and hustle, and sometimes you're just too tired or just too overly preoccupied with other things to stop and kind of research, try to stop and kind of get caught up on what's going on out there. It happens with a lot. It happens in a lot of things. It happens in a lot of things in life. The other thing is the investment in yourself from a money standpoint, the investment in maintenance of your vehicle, the investment in equipment upkeep or upgrades. There's really a continuous process with that. I will say this much: the investments that you make along those lines, they pay for themselves. They really do. Just for example, I just give you a quick example. This is a really quick example. Now, I'm in the F-150, and I made the investment a while back, $10 investment in a tire plug kit. In fact, I did a short a couple of years back on using a tire plug kit. Well, I still have the plugs and the actual tools. And last weekend, I noticed that I was having to put air in the right front tire more times than I would like. And so while I did some maintenance on the other vehicles, the Taurus and the van, and the F-150, in that I did oil changes over the weekend, and then I actually had to plug tires on my daughter's vehicle and on my queen's vehicle, the Taurus. I took off the right front and kind of examined it, and I noticed that there appeared to be where there was something that went into the tire, but it came out. So usually you'll see a screw or nail and it's lodged into the tire, but apparently this popped back out, but it created a slow leak. And so as you see here on the inset, this is the repair work that I did. And so it's paying itself off because, well, my tire is is maintaining pressure, and I am driving to Dallas, even though traffic is slowed up right now because of looks like some incident. Everybody's got there's always a looky-loos and rubberneckers. All right, so as you can tell, I'm in a different setting. It's the next day, and I was supposed to make an update in Atlanta, and as you see here on the inset, this is where I had reached Atlanta. It was actually turning dark, and it was still raining, and so not having the right light source, I figured, well, I'll just wait until the next day, since I know that I would be dropping off this here piece of equipment the next day. I mean, hey, in theory, the drive from Charleston to Dallas is going to be about 15, 16 hours if you drive straight through. And personally, I've made a drive of that distance in the past from Houston back to South Carolina, and that was a 14-hour drive, 1,000 miles. So I've got a little bit of history of doing that, but you know what? When you're driving in the middle of the night, it's a different story. It's really a different story when you drive in the middle of the night, and you're doing it on 2 hours of sleep, which is, I think, what I had yesterday. Well, I had about 2 hours of sleep when I got notification when I happened to catch this opportunity. So anyway, what I want to also point out, I've had plenty of time to think about this. The big deal about this is the $2,750. That's what's going to catch everybody's attention. But in the greater scheme of things, this one is really proportionately the same as some other local opportunities that I've done. How is that so? Well, I've shared that I've done runs from Greer or Greenville or Fountain Inn to Atlanta for around $400, and the distance from those locations to Atlanta is about somewhere between 160 and 175 miles. So on the low end, 160 miles does equal pretty much what I'm getting on this opportunity. And if you're a dollars per mile person, this is coming in at over $2.50 a mile. But here's what really I think is catching other people's attention, and along with the $2,750. Most runs, when you have a run of a distance of 1,000 miles, brokers want to try to hold you around. They really want to try to hold you for as low as they can get you. I mean, it is highly conceivable. People are talking about, yeah, man, I made $900 and I drove 1,000 miles, or they might have gotten 1,100 miles for 1,000 miles, or 1,200 miles. And personally, I've got that type of experience as well. The two other runs that I did to Texas that I've described, I did one from Charlotte to Dallas. It was a straight run along I-20. I booked it for $1,100. It was a weekend opportunity, so I have a lot. My queen accompanied me on that, and depending on how I worked the numbers, I could say that, yeah, I picked up in Charlotte, but I really did the trip out of Columbia because I had to stop and then pick up Queen, and then we set out the next day. We really set out the next day. It was a pickup on Friday, drop off on Monday, but I really didn't set out for Dallas until Saturday the next day. And from Columbia to Dallas is somewhere around, I guess it's about the same amount of miles, but anyway, $1,100. I helped myself out on that particular run because I caught a last mile gig delivery opportunity out of Fort Worth going to Temple, Texas, and that paid over $300. I also had a last mile gig delivery opportunity in the Columbia area before leaving, and that one earned me about $60. And then on the way back, I picked up another $50, $60 out of Alabama. So I earned altogether on that opportunity $1,500. And really, it was more of a, yes, it was business. Yes, it was an opportunity to make money. It was a broker opportunity, but it was also a chance to spend time with the Queen. So that's how I kind of justified that. The other opportunity was a few weeks later from Charlotte to Temple, Texas. And again, we're talking 1,000 1,000 miles or so, I agreed to a rate of $1,350, and I earned another 30 or so dollars in Texas, in which I did a last mile gig delivery opportunity, and it was to McGregor, which is where the SpaceX facility is, where they test some of the rocket engines. And then I booked two brokered opportunities out of Atlanta. One dropped off in South Carolina, and the other one dropped off in North Carolina. And so I came out just south of 2 G's out of that trip. So I got better with trying to maximize opportunities. But as you can tell, though, I mean, on those two opportunities, 1,000-mile trips, one for 1,100, the other for 1,350. So when you look at a 1,000-mile trip on this, and I'm getting 2,750, that's probably where the big deal is. I mean, there are people who are successful with booking opportunities for this amount, but I would venture to say that 9 out of 10 brokers are not going to try to give up that type of money. So the other thing that's on my mind at this juncture, and then we'll pick up this conversation in Dallas when we drop off. I've mentioned this before, but over the road is not my lifestyle. And the reason why it's not my lifestyle is because when you're out there over the road, your money is the miles that you drive. Miles equals money in most cases. You have some who are successful at negotiating for more money, but many of the stories that I hear among drivers who do over the road, they're pretty much being held at about $1 a mile. $1.50 is a great run. And I've heard a lot of numbers, a lot of opportunities like 80, 90, 85 cents a mile. So when you compare it to what I have a history of doing, that's not gonna cut it. The other thing is that you spend a lot of time away from home. If that is your choice, you're gonna spend a lot of time away from home, because you're gonna be on the road. You're gonna be on the road for days and possibly weeks at a time. And the other thing is that, with that lifestyle, you're not going to be spending a lot of money on hotels. You're going to spend a lot of time in your vehicle. And the ideal vehicle for over the road is the extended body, long wheelbase van, so that I'm aware of drivers who have rigged up little mats, little beds that fold up. And so that's how they save a lot of money. I mean, yeah, I spent money on a hotel room tonight, and I'll spend money on a hotel room. Well, I spent money on a hotel room last night, and I'll spend one tonight. In fact, a few of the runs that I did last year, I spent money on hotel rooms because I just don't feel like fucking sleeping on the bed of my van. I just don't. So again, if that is your lifestyle, then of course that is something that you may be open to doing. So we're actually coming up on the state of Texas now. We're coming up on the, if this was traveling along I-10, we would be crossing the Sabine River. And if you drive in Texas, you hear about El Paso. Well, from the Sabine River to El Paso is 900 miles. That's a pretty good run there. That's a pretty good run. Of course, you drive through Houston, you drive through San Antonio, but Texas is a big state. What's ironic about, what's interesting about driving I-20 is that I'll be staying on I-20 heading back to Columbia. So that's all I have to share at this juncture. Again, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome comments in the section below. All right, it is several hours later. I am back in Shreveport. I've dropped off the sensitive high dollar medical equipment. It was dropped off at a hospital in downtown Dallas, and I was paid $2,750, my highest single payout with any delivery and transport opportunity. Now, the reason why I'm back in Shreveport is because I'm going to spend the night. I mean, I'm pretty much I've gone on fumes the last couple of days. But the other reason is that I'm doing a live stream tonight. By the time this comes out, I will have done a live stream with my guest, Jay Watts, otherwise known as the Mic Drop Barbecue, formerly known as Uber Jeep AZ. And so instead of me driving as far as I could and then find a hotel room so that I could scramble together and do a live stream, I figured that, well, what I'll do is call it a day and then do the live stream and then just drive 12 hours from Shreveport back to Columbia. So that is the plan. If there's any takeaway, if there's any other takeaway from this delivery opportunity, is the fact that you can't be timid in asking for money. Even though the offer amount was $2,100, it still doesn't hurt to look for more. I mean, that's a mindset that you just have to acquire. It's probably it's best to say that it's an acquired taste. Now, I'm saying this to y'all though, but the fast friend whom I'm in contact with a lot, he's pointing things out to me. I mean, I'm an old dude. I'm old enough to be his father. In fact, yeah, I'm old enough to be his father. And I'm the first to admit that this old dog can still learn this old dog can still learn a few tricks. And so he's pointing out to me a different strategy, and he's pointing out to me a different strategy in negotiating for opportunities. And as what I figured, he said that you probably left about $500 on the table. Jokingly, I said probably more like dealing with him about another $1,250, but realistically, he said I probably left anywhere between $250 and another $500 on the table. But $2,750 is still pretty good. Now, I will also add this. Now, because of the sensitive equipment and because of the dollar amount involved, the customer was in contact with me yesterday. In fact, by the time I reached Tuscaloosa, I'd gotten a phone call, and she was tracking me from her app. She noted that, hey, you're making pretty good time there. And she was concerned, though, whether I was driving straight through, because if I drove straight through, there would be nobody be there at the facility to receive the equipment. So I told her, I was very quick to tell her that, no, I promise you, I will not be driving straight through. I will be stopping off somewhere, and I plan on getting there at the initial proposed time of noon. In fact, I was there at 11:40. So I got there slightly ahead of schedule because I kind of miscalculated traffic in Dallas. I thought that I was going to encounter more traffic, which would have gotten me there then probably at 12. But since there was less traffic, I got there about 15, 20 minutes sooner. And so I ended up having to wait for her. But that's all I have to share for this particular segment of the Gig Geezer. If you like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button. Give my content a thumbs up. Share my content among others, and I definitely welcome comments in the section below. I'm Inwood Lane. As always, may your grind and may your hustle continue.